Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's Daryl here. It is bright and freaking early, man. You know it. It's not even 3:30 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, I had reason lately to go back. I did a search. I was looking for a very specific Beau the Fifth Column video, and I'm going to talk about that in this video because him and I think we make a great team, honestly, on this one. Campaign promise. It's going to be coming up a lot more. Republican campaign promise, and I guarantee we're going to be hearing a lot more of this coming up to 2024, which is why I'm talking about it. But let me talk about Beau the Fifth Column first. Okay, like I said, I had a reason to go back and find this video. This video is from about 3 months ago. It's going to be right on top, down below. And I've rewatched this video at least, it's over 5 times, probably about 7 or 8 times. And the thing that drew me to Beau the Fifth, the very first time I watched a Beau the Fifth Column video, I was impressed with the simple. There was no fancy thumbnails, there was no fancy background, no fancy lighting, no fancy camera tricks. It was a simple, straightforward man looking into the camera and sharing his knowledge with the viewer. And there's things that I noticed. This is right when I first started making videos. He did this in a lot of times under 5 minutes, 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. And, as best I try, I can't do it in less than 10. This is one of the things. I still think of Beau as my mentor. And as I watched this video over and over, again, I remember the things that drew me to him in the first place. The very first time I watched him, I was so impressed that I made a video. I immediately made a video that day. This was like 4 or 5 years ago, at least. And that video went on to become my most popular video. It's called Let's Talk About Beau the Fifth Column. And I was just amazed. And it made me as a beginning video maker, a beginning video creator, it gave me hope. I've talked about this in other videos, because it was simple. It was something very basic, but it draws you in, and the honesty and the simplicity of it. Okay, so in this video, as I watched, it's like he still got this. In this video, he cites his theory. He goes back and he gives reasons for it. And if you're not a video creator, you might not notice this, or you might not have noticed this, but he does this in such a small amount of time. I always think when I watch a Beau the Fifth Column video, I feel like I got 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes worth of knowledge of learning in like speed learning in 4 or 5 minutes. I swear to God. Now, here's the thing that you probably didn't notice, but I've noticed, and it's amazing every time I watch it. I tell you guys, when you're monetized, you have to fill out a video checklist of what you talk about in your video. If you talk about certain things that are questionable, firearms, etc., sensitive events, enabling dishonest behavior, all this other stuff. And as I watch this video, he is so good at, he gives you what exactly what he's talking about, but he doesn't use the words. In this video, he describes the group in Afghanistan and Iraq as IS. And there's a reason he does this, so he doesn't have to, so the video is more viewable. The video, he doesn't have to check off that on his checklist. And then when he brings up, he uses the word product in this video instead of what I was addicted to, drugs. He never says that word in this video, and he says plants at the end. Plants, he says plants and product. And there's a reason for this. His video is more viewable, and this isn't about money. This is about getting his message out. I've talked about this before. I've talked about shadow banning. I'm not complaining here, but when I have to go, I fill out my checklist, and the maximum things you could check is 5 things on this list of about 12 things, 12 to 14 things. The most you can check is 5, and after that, your video is pretty much considered yellow lighted. It's not really commercially feasible for advertisers. You're not going to get paid for it. And Beau, the way Beau does these videos, he doesn't have to check off any of these. And when you don't check off any of these, your video is more likely to be seen by more people, more advertising dollar. It gets put out more. And he is so talented at this. I'm in awe. You know, and people probably don't even, a lot of people, if you're not a creator and you're not familiar with the advertising and monetization, you probably don't even notice this. And people, you know, if I tried to do this, it's hard to get your message across or even use these words in the title and draw people in. This video got 140,000 views. And if I tried this, I'd probably get about 12 views. Seriously, I am in awe of this man. I always call him my mentor. Like I said, the first time I saw his video, I immediately did a video talking about him. And I was just straightforward, honest. And I think it was, the way I talked about him was, you could tell that I was in awe. I was amazed at, and I kind of stereotyped him. And I talked about that in my video too. And he put this video on he highlighted it on his channel. And a lot of his viewers saw my channel, and that was my boost up right there. Anyway, okay, this subject's going to be coming up more because I'll tell you why. Because this whole problem, the opioid epidemic, is not going away. The election's coming up in 2024, and the main reason this is going to be coming up more, this idea, is because of Republicans, the Republican base, and their whole attitude. That you could bomb away a problem or shoot away a problem or defend yourself from a problem. You can't bomb addiction away. Okay, I'll just sum it up right just like that. It's going to be coming up more and more, and it's going to be a go-to. I truly believe this with Marjorie Taylor Greene, Trump. In this video, in this Beau the Fifth Column video, he's talking about Donald Trump. This was a campaign promise by Donald Trump that what he will do on one of his first days in office is going to more or less attack Mexico. Clandestine operations. Beau is better at this. And that's another thing I learned from Beau. Work to your strengths. Talk about what you know about. That's why I don't talk that much about police tactics or army tactics. I don't know jack about them. I talk about the things I know about, the things I've experienced. And I'm going to talk about that in this video too. Anyway, me and Beau share in this video. He gives some great reasons on why from his forte, from his experience, and why this would be a very bad idea. Most of all, it'll create a lot of refugees at our border, and he's accurate about that. But one of the things he says too is one of the things that I say. He says it a little differently. He mentions where there's a demand. I don't think he said there's a supply. I usually say where there's a demand, there's a supply. There's a supply where there's a demand. And then at the end, how he says the plants want. I think what he's saying there is, I think he's talking about green. I had to think about it for a second. I didn't know if he was talking about like manufacturing plants or green plants. And I think he's talking about green plants. You know, and he's not that experienced in addiction, and good for him that he's not. But a lot of these things, like meth, can be made anywhere in the world, by anybody, by any group of people. So in this video, Beau talks about one of the first things. It's gonna create more of a demand here, and I know this, but I'm gonna talk about this being an addict. I'll talk about that in a second. But it'll fracture the cartels into smaller, more distributed cartels, because there's still going to be such a huge, the profit margin is going to go up. Because the demand here is going to go up. People are going to see that they can't get it, and they're going to offer a little bit more money. I know, I've done this before. And it's going to become more profitable. And just like we take one dealer out on a corner, what happens? What happens? Ask any cop this. What happens? Guaranteed. It's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. It's going to happen here. And it's going to be more distributed around the world, so it's going to be harder to find and harder to stop. A lot of these things can be made anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. It's not just Mexico. The Golden Triangle is where a lot of these things originate. All right. And like he says, it'll create, what we're doing is creating a mess on the other side of the border, which will create refugees it'll make the problem even worse. Let me talk about this one more time from an addict's point of view. I remembered a specific incident. I might have talked about this before. I went to California in 1987 with my girlfriend. I went back in 1989. My addiction had gotten worse. I was with my friend. And at that time, my cocaine addiction had gotten bad. And as soon as I got there, I started looking for cocaine or meth. And I couldn't find it. That night, you're an addict, you need it right away. I didn't want to bring it on a plane because I was afraid to get caught. I figured, I'm going to Los Angeles, I'm sure I can get it there. The problem was, though, I couldn't get it immediately. And this is what I did. And this is what addicts do. And I'm embarrassed now, 20-something, 30-something years later, I'm embarrassed to admit this, but this is what addicts do. I could not get that drug that night, just that night, and probably the next night. I did end up getting it. And here's the thing, too. I ended up buying something that was fake. And I remember my chest started hurting. I had pain in my kidneys back here. The first thing I got 2 days later was fake. And God knows what I inhaled. It could have been anything. And then I ended up getting the real thing. This is what addicts do. So if you do, man, if Donald Trump does put this thing into, or whoever becomes president or whatever, manages to put this into operation, and he stops the flow or stems the flow, even for a little while, here, addicts are going to immediately try to they want the same product. They need the same product. So they're going to offer more money. Therefore, it becomes even bigger in demand. There's more of a profit to be made. That hole is going to be filled even quicker. But this is what I did the very first night. And I'm ashamed to admit this. I went to the convenience store and I bought a bottle of caffeine pills, like 50 milligrams in each pill, I believe it was, like 2 cups of coffee in each pill. And I poisoned myself. I brought them home, I crushed them up, and I snorted them, probably like half the bottle. And I pretty much almost gave myself caffeine poisoning. I did this in an effort to emulate, to try to get that buzz that I couldn't find. This is what addicts do. If, for instance, Donald Trump succeeded even in 1 week in slowing down fentanyl coming into this country, addicts will pay X amount more dollars, or they'll switch to heroin. And they've been told over and over again that fentanyl is 50 times stronger than heroin. So what are they going to do to emulate that buzz? They're going to take as much heroin as possible because they're going to say, hey, this is way weaker. I need that same buzz. And you're going to have people overdosing all over the place, and you're going to make heroin skyrocket back in the Golden Triangle and wherever else they manufacture it. It's not going to solve the problem. It's going to create more problems. Republicans' efforts, these unempathetic, unsympathetic efforts, instead of focusing on treating the addict, compassionately give it recovery is the answer. Stopping the demand will stop the supply. That's the only way. You cannot bomb addiction out of existence. You can't do it. Plus, you're enabling addicts by telling them it's not they're being poisoned. It's not their responsibility. They're just innocent, good Americans, and they're being poisoned by these terrible cartels. And you're taking away one of the most important things in recovery is owning up responsibility for your addiction. You're enabling millions of addicts across the country by doing this. I could go on and talk about this, but anyway, Beau, the fifth column, his video is down below. And I think me and him make a great team on this one particular subject. With him, his forte on one side, my forte on the other side. And this subject is going to be coming up more with 2024 approaching. Mark my words, because this is the only solution that Republicans have, is to try to bomb addiction out of existence, and it's not going to work. Have a good Wednesday.